former FBI whistleblower, Kyle Seraphin. Kyle, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Janelle. It's good to be with you.
Kyle, lots of questions surrounding the FBI's now investigation into the attempted Trump assassination. I think I know your answer, but tell our audience, how much do you trust an FBI investigation at this stage, at this point?
I think that answer is actually twofold. When it comes to the transparency that we're going to see, I think it's very low. I think that's the reason why the Bureau is there. They love to hide behind an ongoing investigation. That's kind of Chris Wray's get-out-of-jail-free card when he steps up in front of Congress. And anytime that they're called for oversight, they're more than happy to ignore the calls from the public who pays for their salaries. But the FBI as an entity, which, it's unfortunate. I'm in a position where I kind of have to call balls and strikes. I want to just be right down the middle. There are very competent investigators in the FBI, just like there's very competent protective agents and detailees in the Secret Service. So it's very strange to see a failing from the Secret Service on a day like that, and then to think that the FBI is going to step in and give us the straight, information and give us any kind of meaningful results is very low. I think we're going to see something a lot like what people saw in Las Vegas, unfortunately. I think we're going to see a lot of more questions than we have answers, Stephen Paddock style. And that's not what America needs right now. This was a massive change. Our country is not going to be the same. I've likened it to sitting in a dark place in a cabin with the mist from Stephen King's book sitting outside, and we just lost another pane of glass. I don't know how many panes of glass there are keeping out the mist, but one of them is broken as of Saturday afternoon.
Kyle, what do you think is happening at this stage of the investigation at FBI? Lay out for our audience kind of what this kind of investigation would look like at this moment.
This is a mess, right? You've got a huge crowd. You've got a bunch of people that came and went. They weren't controlling the scene at the moment that it happened. So they've got to pick up physical evidence. They've got to run the ballistics. They've got to make sure that they've lined up where the shot was coming from, that this was the only shooter, and so on and so forth. You've got multiple engagements. From what I heard, sounded like multiple people were engaging the shooter. So a shooting position from both law enforcement and from a suspect. That's a mess. Then you've got hundreds, maybe thousands of witnesses who have something to gain. There's going to be cell phone footage that people are going to be able to volunteer, some that are going to be requested. They're not going to get all of it. It's a disaster area, and the FBI does this with some degree of capabilities, but it's not something you do every single day. And it's certainly going to be overwhelming for the Pittsburgh field office, which took it over. So I'm confident they're going to have some resources from Quantico. They've got some national resources from what's called Evidence Response Team, and that'll come in and try to set this stuff. They do big, large investigations like this, but this is such a charged, emotional moment. And then the other thing is whenever you start talking to people about what they witnessed, you just mentioned the woman that's behind the crowd. There's going to be a lot of, let's say, distracting information. And when I was a paramedic, we would look at a thing called a distracting wound. That's something that bleeds a lot, but it's not a life threat. And the woman sitting behind Donald Trump, or a man who makes a funny face and a tongue, there's a lot of weird people out there in the world. And sometimes people are just weird because they do weird things. We're also dealing with a lifetime of people being acclimated to social media so that when something crazy happens, their instinct is not self-protection and not to drop to the ground and hide. Their instinct is to film it, which is absurd. But, you see people get hit by ambulances and fire trucks because they're just not paying attention. So we should probably try to focus on the down the narrow at who was this guy, why did he do it, was anyone helping him, and then the real question, which I think everybody has to ask, and I know Corey Mills has asked it very dramatically, was this incompetence or was this malfeasance? And I have a very difficult time with that. Sure.
Well, my next question to you, as an observer, as someone who was with the FBI for many years, what questions stick out to you about this incident right now that lawmakers should be asking?
All right, so I got to spend a lot of time with Secret Service in a low visibility role with the Uniform Division. We did what are called national special security events around D.C. So I was at President Trump's inauguration. I was at Biden's. I was at all the State of the Unions. We walk around on an undercover role and look for people causing problems. There have been questions about, who was out there spotting for this kind of stuff. There's always plainclothes people, and I was one of them many times over in D.C. The Secret Service is too good at this to not be capable of protection. And the second thing is that the FBI is too good at investigations to not be competent. But we've seen some things like this, like January 6th pipe bomber. My buddy and I kind of made the joke, maybe they'll figure out what was going on with this shooter right after they catch the pipe bomber. And those of us who are paying attention know that hasn't happened, and we don't expect it to happen anytime soon. That's a serious amount of trust that we've lost in these institutions.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.